Good evening, President Giacquina, members of the board, and Dr. Robinson. Thank you for allowing us to present to you tonight a recap of the last year and a few months for the $119 million bond issue, approved by the voters on May 8, 2012. I'd like to introduce to you our facilities team, working under the support and direction of Superintendent Robinson and Chief Financial Officer Kathy Friend, Director of Facilities Darren Hess. On the left-hand side, you'll see the bond team, starting with Heather Krebs. She is our coordinator of program controls. She is assisting us in the development of the overall budget, schedule, and communication plan, as well as the day-to-day support of our three coordinators of capital projects, Zach Evans, Gary Reinard, and Josh Summers. On the right-hand side of the org chart, you can see our support staff for the capital projects team. We have Jade Steffen, our coordinator of physical plant improvement, Steve Smethers, coordinator of energy management, and our maintenance and operations group, under leadership of manager Andy Kaposius, supervisors Tim Freemuth, Louis Burmis, and finally John Kurtz. Early on, a commitment was made to include our maintenance and operations department in all design meetings to incorporate products, equipment, and systems that are easily maintained and are of high quality. The addition of Steve Smethers during the design meetings assisted us in constructing sustainable and energy-efficient projects. He also assists us with capturing any rebate incentives that we may have by our utility companies. In addition to these team members, we have worked closely with our FWCS technology, media services, and purchasing departments, as well as area-level administrators and building principals. Quick agenda of some of the highlights we're going to have for tonight for you. Our program management goals. Last year, about this time, Brailsford and Dunleavy, our implementation consultant, set forth these 7 main goals regarding the successful implementation of our bond program. First one, refine the facility improvement plan. This goal included 2 main components, our overall program budget and overall program schedule, turning those original 2011 estimates into real budgets. The second is to develop the Program Procedures Manual, or the PPM. Each coordinator has one of the manuals and has reviewed it, is in their possession. Items in the PPM include proper communications, reporting, and other project management related items so that all FWCS coordinators are managing the bond projects in a consistent and uniform way. Develop the district standards and specifications. We have just completed our first full revision of our district standards and specifications. An example of one of the district standards is to provide a standalone air conditioning unit for the office. This is done so that during the summer months, when we only have 2 or 3 individuals working in the office, the main house chiller, sometimes 100 tons or larger, does not need to be turned on. This increases the life of the main chiller and saves energy overall. Fourth, outline program communications and reporting through websites, internal project reporting, standards, and community presentations. Transparency to the public and periodic updates to our website. An example of transparency. We have listed every bid tabulation on each of the large contracts, listing every bid so far and by whom bid these projects. We've also completed several community presentations where work is occurring, where we plan to continue work, such as in phased programs you'll see later, and any of the future projects as we move on. We also plan to be at our Choice Fair in November to show parents how excited we are about this process and show the community this is what we've done and this is what we're going to continue to do. Look forward to that. A copy of this presentation, as well as others, are on our website for review as well. Fifth, a procurement strategy. Traditional design bid build and design build procurement. Back in October of last year, you guys set forth a procurement plan We have followed that, and we continue to work on that. We have 3 projects yet to go that will start in 2015. 6, develop a data management procedures, document controls such as Procore web-based project management system. Keeping track of data and utilizing the data is one of Heather's main functions. We have data management procedures in place to track budgets, labor, and local participation, for example. You'll see some of that later tonight. With the addition of Procore, a cloud-based project management system, all partners on the team, the architects, engineers, contractors, and FWCS bond control team, are able to access information within seconds through the web, no matter where they're at on the job site or at their computer, even on handheld devices such as iPads and iPods. This has increased the speed and accuracy of communications greatly. And lastly, most proud of, I've introduced you to the team. We've trained and hired the FWCS staff. It's our full project team now. We are all FWCS employees. Our main focus is the successful implementation and completion of this important bond project the community has entrusted us with little to no disruption to the learning environment. Heather will now share with us the overall program budget status. Heather?
Thanks, Darren. Financing. To start, I'd like to cover the bond financing that is currently in place. Our initial program startup fund of $7 million was issued as a general obligation bond, or GOB. This bond has an interest rate of 1% with a payoff scheduled in 2014. The first major bond sale occurred in June of this year with proceeds of approximately $60.2 million. The interest rate on these bonds are 3.441% with payoff scheduled in 2033. As you can see from the chart, we currently have 6% of the $119 million budget financed by the general obligation bond and 51% financed through the 2013 bonds. We anticipate financing an additional 35%, or approximately $41.8 million in 2014, leaving the final 8%, or $10 million, to potentially be funded in 2015. Touching on our current budget status, as you are aware, the total program cost approved per the referendum was $119,346,312. With the bond funding that is currently in place, we have realized $1.87 million in costs associated with bond financing. To date, the program has also realized slightly less than $3.3 million in professional services, which include design contracts, legal services, printing, and testing services. With these costs removed, this leaves just over $114 million of the program budget remaining. When we look at the major individual project cost, construction contracts to date have totaled roughly $45.75 million. Earlier this evening, the board approved our first and only change order for $27,000. Additional allocations for these projects that are underway total roughly $8.2 million and include asbestos abatement, final cleaning services, commissioning costs, and individual project contingencies. Subtracting these costs, we are left with a total program balance available for the remaining 2014 and 2015 projects of roughly $60.2 million. Our current estimates for these remaining projects total $51.4 million for an overall potential program savings of $8.8 million. There are two options for any of the program savings that are realized through the course of the program implementation. First off, we were extremely conservative in the early project bids and did not accept certain alternate work items that weren't deemed absolutely necessary to the completion of the project. We could investigate proceeding with some of those work items, such as additional masonry cleaning and demolition of unused structures, such as the chimney at Harrison Hill, and complete those items as part of the bond rather than as part of future capital projects. And secondly, we don't have to borrow all the funding that was approved, in effect giving the savings back to the taxpayers. For this reason, we are currently showing the final 8% or $10 million of the bond sale to occur in 2015 so that we may choose to decrease our overall financed amount during the last year of the program. Moving to the charts, as noted in the chart on the lower left-hand corner of the screen, we have currently realized 45% of the total program budget in actual costs. You may recall from the previous slide that we have 57% of the total program budget in place, so we are in good shape for funding to carry us through the 2014 bond sale. The chart on the right illustrates the breakdown of costs to date, with 77% of the total cost realized going to hard construction cost, 6% to design services, 3% to the sale of bonds and financing, and 14% to those other program costs such as asbestos abatement, final cleaning, commissioning, and other contingencies held, and less than 1% in overall change orders. This is concurrent with the original budgeting structure that held 75% of the cost of the program to be hard construction dollars and 25% to be other soft costs. And with that, I'll hand it over to Gary Reinard to continue with our individual project updates. Thank you.
Heather. The first project I want to talk about tonight is Snyder High School. This project actually consisted of 3 separate projects, so this is kind of covering all 3 of them. The first sheet I'll go through here. The main building project was one. We had a separate site project that included a covered walkway and a bus drive, and then we had a modular classroom project. The architect for the project was Primary Engineering and Barton Cove Villama. The general contractor was Michael Kinder and Sons. They are on the main building project and also the site project, and the modular classrooms was Tyson on site. The original project estimate was just under $40.3 million. The current expected project cost is $30.2 million. A couple reasons for that difference. Right off the top would be the cost of the modulars. That came in well under what the budget was for that. I think the initial budget was $4 million, and the cost of those was about $500,000. And then we also had a very good bidding market at the time these projects were bid. So all 3 projects came in under the initial budget. Labor statistics. Union labor made up 67% of the projects. Non-union labor was 33%. And those percentages are based on contract dollar amounts. Local participation of contractors. 88% of the contractors on the projects were Allen County. Their home office is in Allen County. 6% are in adjacent counties, and 6% are other outside counties. Some of the work that was completed in this summer phase on the main building project was removal of existing corridor ceilings. Pretty much all the ceilings on the first floor from the gymnasium to the west was removed. That was to facilitate the installation of new hydronic piping from the boiler room down to the second phase of the project, or the current phase we're in, which is the far west wing. The new piping is going above the ceilings on the first floor, whereas the existing piping is located in the tunnels. As we go through the project, we'll be using both the new piping and the existing piping, and there was not room in the tunnels to accommodate both. So the new piping goes above the ceilings, and again, we'll be using the existing piping in the tunnels until the end of the project too. We also started demolition in phase 2, which is the math and science wings at the west end of the building. other phases. Currently, we're in the fall phase, which is renovations of the math and English classrooms. We have a winter and spring phase, which is includes the guidance and other classroom areas. Next summer, 2014, we'll be in the science wings, 3D art area, and the cafeteria. And then fall, winter, and spring is more classrooms for the art areas. Winter is the auditorium. Spring will be the band, wrestling, weight room, and the south locker rooms off the main gymnasium. Summer of 2015 will include the office, media center, main gymnasium, and the north locker rooms off the main gymnasium. And then the final fall 2015 phase will be the PE building, auxiliary gym, multi-purpose, and some other various areas. The final completion for the main high school renovation is November of 2015. This summer, as I mentioned, we also had two other projects out there, the site project and the modular classrooms. We installed two sets of modular classrooms. One has 8 classrooms in it, the other has 12 classrooms. We're actually using 18 of those currently for classrooms, and we made 2 of those rooms teachers' workrooms, one in each pod. We also completed the construction of the wood frame metal siding covered walkway that goes from the main building out to the modular classrooms. You can see that white roof on the right-hand side of the photo there. We completed the below-ground stormwater detention system, and we also completed the new bus drive as part of the site project. Currently, the bus drive is being used for contractor staging for material and trailers. At the end of the main project, there'll be some additional paving, surface coating, and some concrete work. And then at that time, it'll be utilized as the bus drive. Next project is Memorial Park Middle School. The architect is Design Collaborative. General contractor is Fetters Construction. The original project estimate for this project was $9.9 million. The current expected cost is $7.1 million. The labor statistics, union labor made up 66%, non-union labor made up 34%. Again, that's based on contract dollar amounts. And local participation, 87% of the contractors are from Allen County, 3% from adjacent counties, and 10% outside counties. This summer's phase included preparation of swing spaces for classrooms, gymnasium and locker room renovations. The gymnasium is now air conditioned. The band area renovation, the hydronic piping mains above the ceilings for the remainder of the project were ran down the corridors, and the curtain wall replacement, with the exception of the 2-story south wing. We did not get that one completed this year due to the other work related to the curtain wall system, which included some wall framing, bulkhead framing, and we had it set up in the contract that if they couldn't get it all done this summer, there would be 3 areas that would be completed next summer, and we've got one of those. The area on the left of the photo there is the cafeteria. That was one of the areas that we wasn't sure we would get this summer, so we got 2 of the 3 areas that we allowed them to do next summer. The area on the right there is the existing curtain wall system, so you can kind of see the new system compared to the old system. And like I say, next summer the old system will be replaced, and those classrooms along that area also get renovated next summer, so we would be in those rooms anyways.
I just have a quick question. When we took a tour as board and we're looking at curtain wall replacements, we were looking at a product that was concrete that was to go in and remove some of the surface area out of these curtain walls and replace it with a sturdier type material. We were told how these panels deteriorate quicker than some other materials, and I noticed that we came back in with them.
I believe, and this was
This was before Gary on the design side, so I'll answer that. The existing structure, the footing, the foundations will not support that. So that is one of the first things we have the design team look at. They bring their structural engineers in. They look at the existing conditions, and they make the assessment of whether or not it's strong enough to hold the concrete curtain wall as opposed to aluminum and glass. So unfortunately, in Memorial Park, the existing footings, foundations were not strong enough to bear that weight.
Looking at some of our other buildings that will also be renovated, will this be a problem in other places?
Potentially, yes. I mean, we look at each of these projects individually. They actually tear into the building. They make measurements, calculations to find out whether or not it's actually feasible or not. So that's what we're doing right now at Northwood and Tolles. They actually tore some of the windows out this summer, and they're currently going through the structural analysis right now.
So essentially what we're putting back into these buildings are a new set of what has failed us in the past, or is it something that's new and improved that's going in?
It's new and improved, absolutely. We have a much higher R value. We have better products than we did 50 years ago. The glass isn't single pane, it's double pane, insulated, e-glazing. So the product is essentially the same system, but it's much improved.
Currently, we are in the fall phase of 2013, which includes 2 classroom renovations. We'll have a winter and a spring 2014, which includes 3 classrooms in each phase. Next summer, we will renovate the art, science, special education, cafeteria, and gang restrooms. And then we'll again have another fall, winter, and spring phases, which is 3 classrooms each. As a note, once we get to about a year from now, next fall, we should have enough unit ventilators online to provide enough load for the chiller. That's when we'll start air conditioning the classrooms. So everything starting once we get to fall, all the classrooms that have been renovated prior to that is when we can start air conditioning those. And then in the winter, spring phases, those classrooms will be air conditioned as we complete those areas. We just have to get enough load on the chiller before we can start the air conditioning process. The final summer phase includes the office, media center, and stairwell renovations. Final completion for Memorial Park is scheduled for August of 2015. And with that, I'll turn it over to Zach.
Good evening. The Harrison Hill Elementary School renovation is the third of the major projects currently under construction. The architect for the project is MSKTD and Associates in association with Martin Riley Architects and Engineers. The general contractor for the project is Fetters Construction. The original project estimate of just over $9.8 million was increased during the design phase to reflect the expanded scope that was determined to be necessary in order to successfully complete the goals of the project. This work consists of the new boiler room addition and the more intensive masonry repairs. To elaborate a little bit here, the original project estimate included a new boiler room and chiller plant within the existing lower level boiler room. Early in the design phase, it became apparent that we shouldn't make an investment in the new equipment and locate it in a space with known challenges. So the determination then was made to place the new equipment in a new grade level boiler room. The second addition to the scope was the expanded masonry repair package. Upon limited deconstructive inspection at several window openings around the school building, we discovered that more challenges existed within the wall cavity than reflected in the original scope of work. You can see on the lower right-hand corner there's one of the windows that we removed the window during the summer and removed the soldier masonry course above the window, and that's what was behind it. So we have some extra challenges there that we're going to deal with during each of the phases as we replace each of the windows. Union contractors make up almost 3/4 of the construction team, and we have about the same percentage in local participation by Allen County-based contractors. This project is also broken up into summer and school year phases and uses existing classrooms as swing space during the school year. This summer we constructed the new boiler room, renovated the 4 main public restrooms, and installed piping and electrical distribution through the first floor corridors. During this fall semester that we just began, we'll be renovating 7 classrooms, a portion of the second floor corridor, and the second floor girls' restroom on the west side. Next spring, we'll renovate another 7 classrooms, a portion of the second floor corridor, and the second floor boys' restroom on the west end of the building. Next summer, we'll renovate 12 classrooms, the balance of our corridors, and all of our main public spaces, including the administrative wing, the gymnasium, and the cafeteria, and also the kindergarten room, so we don't have to move them during the school year. The following fall would be the fall of 2014. We'll renovate the last 4 classrooms as well as our 4 temporary swing classrooms, and we look to be complete before the kids return from their winter break in January 2015.
One question, what happens to the old boiler room, that basement that we saw that was always flooding? And
As we bring everything online on the new systems, we'll what we call decommission those,
Right.
all that old equipment. So they'll pull the wiring out, shut them down, drain them all down, and then we'll come in after the project and remove those separately.
And
It will be removed?
well, currently, under the current contract, because we were very conservative in moving forward, we just decommissioned them and left them as is. Now, when we talk about what we can do with the future savings with the program, that's where we can come back in and do something different with that boiler room as opposed to just leaving it go. So that's one of the options we have.
The next project is our chiller additions project that we completed this summer. We installed chiller systems in 6 schools, including Abbott, Indian Village, Maplewood, Portage, Scott, and Tolles. The original project estimate was just a hair over $4.4 million, and the current expected project cost is just over $3.1 million. Just over half of the contracting team represents union labor, and all contractors on this project are based in Allen County. At this time, all 6 chiller systems are operational, and these improvements help us reach our ultimate goal of air conditioning all of our school buildings. At the end of this bond program, all but 12 schools will have cooling. Also this summer, we completed our first 3 full building window replacement and masonry repair projects at Adams, Abbott, and Shambaugh Elementary Schools. The architect for this project is H2 Design, along with Foursquare Solutions, who acted as an envelope consultant. Each school was bid and awarded separately. Abbott Elementary was awarded to Shawnee Construction. Adams was awarded to Michael Kinder and Sons. And Shambaugh Elementary was awarded to Hamilton Hunter Builders. Our original project estimate was just over $2 million. We now know that the actual project cost will be close to $1.5 million. Union contractors made up either 75 or 100% of each of the contracting teams, and all of our contractors are based in Allen County. This time I'll turn back over to Gary to cover the site improvement project at Croninger.
The next project is the site improvement project, which was a parent pickup drop-off lane at Croninger Elementary School. The architect was GAI Consultants. The general contractor was Wayne Asphalt. The original project estimate for Croninger was $200,000. Our current expected project cost is $434,000. There are several reasons why the projected cost is over the budget number. The first one being, if you look at the graphic on the right, the green drive that you see there, that was the original layout that the original budget was based on. And after we got into that design, we was going to end up being required to add acceleration and deacceleration lanes out on Trier Road. So that would have added additional cost to the budget for that layout. So the layout was revised to what is in blue now, where we go off of Trier Road through the existing parking lot and basically wrap clear around the building, 2 lanes in and 1 lane out.
Why did we catch that during the design phase, that we would have those difficulties with the acceleration, deceleration lanes?
That was caught in the design. If you remember, these are the 2011 estimates, and at that time, when Steve and I met with the city to talk about a parent pickup lane at Croninger, they approved that plan. You know, they approve plan, but they don't do anything in writing until they see construction documents. After we start going through the design phase, they start meeting regular with the city, and that's when they start loading up of, okay, this is what's changed. This is, you know, we're requiring this now. So it really ballooned. One of the things I struggled with, we could spend $100,000 and do ACEL acceleration, deceleration lanes along Trier, but it's really not going to help us out. I'd rather put that additional $100,000 in more stacking, and that's why we chose to flip it to the other side of the building.
What's that big blue square down there at the bottom?
I will get to that in just a
Okay.
second, if that's all right. Another change that the city required during the design phase, and we was at about 75% design, somewhere like that. I believe most of this was the city ended up looking at this drive as a parking lot, not a drive. So that changed some of the requirements we had to follow. And one of those being we had to retain our stormwater on site. So the area that Heather is pointing to now, that is actually a 36-inch pipe that is sized to, in a heavy storm, hold our storm water, and it slowly releases it into the city system. That 36-inch pipe goes into an 18-inch pipe there, and then it dumps into the city system. Downstream from where we are putting our water, they're having other issues with flooding, so that was another reason they wanted us to slow the water from our site to getting into their system. So the big blue square down there is in a real heavy rain, the water will overflow and run on site down to the southwest corner, again slowing down the time that our water gets into the city system. Another change they had once they deemed it a parking lot was we had to add landscape screening, which that's the only part of the project that's not complete yet. We're waiting until towards the end of this month when we get out of 90-degree weather to plant the trees.
Is there a way, I'm sorry, go ahead. Is there a way to avoid, or is there something that we can do to follow their rules, regulations, and planning? I mean, is it cutting short the time between the conversation with the city and construction? I mean, how do we estimate or build or float a bond to take care when we have such differences?
It's a moving target. It truly is. With each, the city with their EPA mandate that we had with clean water, it's more and more difficult each year to do any type of site project or any building addition. Believe it or not, 2 years ago, they had less stringent requirements. We used to build bus lanes and parking and parent pickup lanes. They never required us to retain water. This was the first time they looked at us and said, you're going to retain 100% of it. We have design contingency built in. That's why, program-wise, we're not over budget. We were able to absorb this additional scope through the design contingency. That's about the only way we can counter at this point without expending a lot of money up front before we have a bond referendum to design something to 75 or 90% and find out then what the actual budget is. So
is that an underground water retention system similar to what we had to build at Snyder?
36-inch pipe is, yes.
No, I mean the big blue square.
The big blue square, that is where the pipe overflows on the grade.
Above ground?
Yes, and it basically surface drainage at that point. That is in a real heavy storm where the pipe will not allow enough out to fill the system. The system is full. The piping system will not allow enough out, It's designed to overflow on grade in that blue area and runs down on the surface.
Where's the current?
What's there now in blue grade? Is that baseball field?
It's basically between two baseball fields, yeah. It's a slight slope in that. It's only about 1.5 feet what it tapers down. So it's not a deep detention pond or anything like that.
And we're using the rain garden too.
Playground's up there.
That's it.
There were some safety issues, Darren, with that, because I know kids come out the back and cross, and we hadn't quite figured that out. Is that taken care of now as far as a lane or where the students can walk?
Yeah, we have 2 crosswalks, and we was out there after the first day and met with the principal and watched how things were working. And the second day of the project, we added stop signs at those crosswalks. The first day, we didn't have stop signs there, and there was a parent or 2 that called the principal and was concerned about crossing. So that next day, we added stop signs in all directions at both of those crosswalks. So they have to stop now.
And I think I understand the teachers now are also out there.
Teachers are also out there, yes.
Is where the big blue square is that, if it rained really hard, is that a ditch? Is that I'm concerning about the safety of the kids, because the kids just play all through that area.
It's really a gradual slope down from the existing baseball dirt areas, diamonds, a gradual slope that gets, it was like 1.5 feet deep. So it's not a deep ditch, it's not a steep slope, it's a gradual thing.
Well, in that lower area that he's talking about actually drains to a demonstration wetland garden that the city put in for stormwater cleansing.
Okay.
It's actually going to a infrastructure that's in place that the city has. So, like you said, it's a slow, gradual overland flow that will be absorbed into that wetland plantings and then released into the soil as opposed to a flush through a pipe.
So you're not characterizing it as a retention area for
No,
water?
no.
And it's all working well?
Wait till
Is
the
everybody
first
happy out there?
From what I've heard, everybody's happy.
I'm more worried about I'm sorry, I switched on the traffic pattern. Does that seem to be working really well?
The traffic pattern seems to be working. Like I say, I was out there, Darren was out there the first day in the morning. We were both out in the afternoon. The first afternoon, we did have a few cars stacked up on Trier. But from what I understand, the first day you always have a lot more cars than after the first day. When I was out there second day for the pickup, we did not have cars out on Trier Road. We had enough stacking space on the property. Also, Irwin was supposed to have a pickup drop-off lane in this summer's work also, but when we were close to the end of the design, about 75% or so, Darren was contacted by the homeowner that owns that one property south of the school, and at that time we were taking the new pickup drop-off lane and winding it around that drive. Well, when those negotiations started up again, we decided to pull Irwin out of the project for now, hoping we would be able to purchase that property and put in a better drive than having to go around it. Excuse me. That budget for that project was also $200,000, so the current project cost there is to be determined. Labor statistics for the project: union labor, we had 20%, non-union labor was 80%. Local participation was 100% Allen County contractors. With that, I'll turn it over to Josh for the roof.
Thanks, Gary. Last year we had 7 roof projects where we did partial or complete roof replacements. The architect for these projects was Martin Riley. They're the architect for all the roof projects for the entire bond issue. We bid out we had three separate packages for this round of roof replacements. Fort Wayne Roofing was the general contractor for all three packages. The original project estimate was $2.2 million, and the project cost as it stands is $1.7 million. We had 0% union labor, 100% non-union labor on this project, and 100% Allen County contractor. These slides show you the areas that we replaced on the different roofs. So in Adams, we replaced the upper roof areas in two spots. Anthus was all above, on the upper roof above the auto bays. Bloomingdale was an entire roof replacement because that roof was, all the roof areas on that building were past their warranty and useful life, so the entire building got replaced, including the walkway going into the main entrance. Bunch was just the shingle areas, the sloped shingle areas. Jefferson, we just replaced that little storage building that's up in the corner. Miami was above a classroom wing and above the boiler room. And at South Transportation, there was about 8 different roofs there, and they were all from the late 80s, early 90s is when they were originally put down. And so all of that building received a new roof. Now we're going to look at the overall labor distribution. We've touched on that in all the individual projects, but now we're going to look at the overall bond issue this year as a whole. So for overall, based on the contract dollar amounts, 53% of the contractors and subcontractors were union, and 47% were non-union. Of all the projects we had, they were all based off of union wages except for Croninger and Snyder. We were also asked to look at local participation on the projects. For the contractors and subcontractors, we had 86% were based in Allen County, 7% were in counties adjacent to Allen, and 7% were in other areas. We also looked at the architecture and engineering firms that worked on the projects, and in that category we had 100% Allen County participation.
Thank you, Josh. Now we'll talk about the 2014 and 15 projects, starting with Bloomingdale and Harris Elementary. We're currently in the design phases of these projects. The first go at design build, approved in our October 2012 procurement meeting with the board, is to try design build for Bloomingdale and Harris. At the bottom, with the flow chart, on the far left is the RFQ phase. We have been through that, and we have our 3 highly qualified design build teams now in the middle of the RFP phase. In December of this year, we will be back in front of you to ask you to approve a design build award for these 2 projects. Some of the items of note with the design build procurement: there's opportunity for expedited schedule and cost savings, 1 contract, an integrated design and construction team. Selection is based on best value, a point system as opposed to low bid, and it's best suited for standardized, repetitive, and/or schedule-driven projects. The Bloomingdale and Harris projects, we're actually going to bid them, or not bid them, but we are procuring them as a single package with a total project estimate of $9.3 million. They are going to look very similar to the projects we looked at tonight: Harrison Hill, Snyder, Memorial Park. Our major scope of work items: replacement of all mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, including the addition of air conditioning to both buildings, update of the classroom finishes, window replacement, and masonry repairs. Again, we'll be back in front of you in December for a board recommendation with spring 2014 construction starting. The next 2 projects this year are Croninger and Irwin. You've recently, tonight, approved the architect and engineering contracts for the designers. We are meeting tomorrow as kickoff meetings for both those projects to get started. Croninger will be bid separately with an estimate of $5.7 million. The architect on board will be design collaborative, similar major scope of work items as well, addition of air conditioning and major infrastructure replacements. Irwin, we approved SCO Engineering as the design team tonight. The project estimate is $4.2 million, and again mirrors the same scope with adding air conditioning and major infrastructure replacement work to begin this spring. Our next phase of window replacements, this is phase 2. Northwood and Tolles. Like I mentioned earlier, we are currently investigating what type of system needs to go in. And Lisa, to note from Memorial Park, if you remember back to that slide, we saved, I'm thinking, about $1.8 million. That is one of the benefits of not going to precast concrete, will be a lesser cost. Now, obviously, we want a more of a life cycle with the concrete, but that was another realization of savings at Memorial Park, another reason that one came in so under budget.
What is the difference between the concrete and the aluminum glass combination as far as the years of use?
The precast concrete could be anywhere from 50 to 60 years. The metal panels anywhere from 30 to 40 years. It's just a more durable product. Mowers hitting stones up against them, etc. So that's the main, is just durability, so they don't start looking bad or start rusting. The next two projects, like I said, is Northwood and Tolles. The construction budget of $2.7 million, and work will begin spring, mainly this summer, 2014. 2014 roof replacements. We're looking at our next 7 projects. You see the buildings listed there. Our architect is Martin Riley Architects. They, again, are approved for all 3 of the phases. This phase will be $1.8 million, work to occur next summer. The last project we're working on currently in design is the Snyder kitchen and serving line renovations. Scope of work is to renovate the kitchen and serving line and to replace all of the kitchen and serving area equipment, including the built-in freezer and cooler. The AE for this is primary engineering. It will be funded from the Snyder allocation and some from the nutrition services budget for the equipment. This was not included in the main project due to timing. If you remember, we came to you in June to approve that contract just to get started. We wanted to be very deliberate in our design of that circulation and new kitchen. So that's why that existing Michael Kinder and Son project does not include anything with the kitchen. It'll be bid as a separate standalone project. Work will occur this summer. Looking forward to 2015 projects, we have 3 major buildings left: Haley, Jefferson, and Weiser Park. We have yet to decide the procurement strategy on these 3, whether it's going to be design, bid, build, or traditional method, or design, build. We want to get a few more months into the process before we make that decision. 2015, our last phase, which is Brentwood, Portage, and Scott Academy. And then 15, we have the last 14 smaller roof areas to catch us up on our roof replacement plan. In summary, very happy to report to the board tonight that we believe it's been a great success. Our program is within budget. Our forecasted savings at this point are about $8.5 million. Obviously, we have to make the decisions further on down the program of whether we want to put that all back into not going for that third and final bond to fund it, or to finish up some of the projects that didn't get completed through the program, such as the alternates at Harrison Hill, taking down the old existing chimney, filling in the boiler room, additional masonry restoration, and cleaning of the masonry at the 3 buildings we did this summer. And then also the completion of that Irwin parent pickup lane. Local participation, this was key. Our Hanover study, if you remember, before we went to the voters, a third-party study looking at the projected local participation a bond issue of this size could produce. It forecasted 85.2%. With our data that we've collected so far, we have 86% of the contractors residing in Allen County, their home office, and 100% of the home offices of our architects and engineers being in Allen County. Our program is on schedule. The only thing that we have pushed back is Irwin Parent Pickup Lane. I think it's a better project in the end to wait that homeowner out instead of building around them. We have time in the schedule. It's only going to take one summer to build that, so that doesn't scare me at all. Our scope and financing, we believe, is aligned with our referendum expectations. We're not building running tracks, new stadiums. We're staying within what we promised the community. And transparency. With our website updates ongoing, we are looking for new ways and constantly challenging ourselves of how we can be more transparent and allowing the community to know what we're doing. We're really going to be hitting this last bullet point hard after this first summer. Now we have a full team in place, so we can start concentrating more on the website. So very proud of the program so far. I believe it's been a success. And thank you, and any questions?
Darren, thanks to you and your team. Mark's left, and he's turned our imaginary gavel over to me, and we'll be glad to, if you'll would stay there and field questions or comments from board members. And Lisa, I saw you with a raised hand.
Have we at all, in our chillers or coolers, looked at alternative energy sources for heat exchangers?
We have. The problem we have mainly with our new air conditioning systems, we don't use them enough. And what I mean by that, to make the project work with paying on energy savings avoidance, we have to run our chillers all summer. In our elementary and our middle schools, unless we're having summer school in that building, they're turned off. So as part of that equation, we have to calculate whether or not we're going to run the chillers during the summer. And if we don't, they don't pay off. And that's where we've gone back to our convention air-cooled systems. The other item is, maintenance and operations have been very vocal in this. We only have a certain number of technicians, even though they're highly trained and certified in refrigeration. Every time you bring a new system on board, it's a new training curve and less people that we can count on in-house to repair it. So we think we measure both of those mainly on looking at alternatives.
Okay. So places that have gone to that over their entire campus, it's because they have the staff to make the change over to?
I think it's a combination. They have staff or they set up service contracts with specialty vendors, but the main thing is how they use the buildings. If you look at any college campuses, they're running those buildings 24/7 almost anymore. And with Steve Smothers now in with our energy leadership, he really tightens down that schedule. So when you tighten down the schedule, you also take away your advantage to save money if you're not spending money.
Other questions from board members?
I have a quick question, Darren. When will schools like St. Joe Elementary come online for a chiller? Because those kids are sweltering in the heat. And I was there for a back-to-school night at 7:30 at night. You couldn't even stand to be in the building a half hour, much less a whole day. So I just want to know, kind of what the timeline is for some of the other schools.
Well, the timeline is, unfortunately, with our capital projects fund, our annual CPF allotment, we can't afford to do a capital project to add air conditioning to that school. It's not included in the bond project at this time because we had to make our $119 million palatable for our community. We hope and we plan on going forward with proving through this bond issue we're being very frugal with the funds, we're not overspending, so that we can go to a second or a third bond issue here in the next 4 years, 7 years, and include those 12 buildings, for example, St. Joe, one of them, that still doesn't have air conditioning.
Well, I think you guys in your bidding process have done a very good job in trying to control the costs. I'm just a little disappointed in my colleagues who insist on paying union wages, which are higher wages, because that takes away from our abilities to make these improvements in these schools in a more timely fashion.
Other comments from board members? Questions?
I want to say congratulations. Darren, you win your badge for this huge project and your staff that are working with you. I am tickled that we made the decision to do this in-house. I remember that was a real heavy discussion among the board and administrative staff on which way to go with this, and that decision was correct to do it in-house, so I congratulate all of you. It's a great report. I am very pleased with the employment of all local. I mean, that is just fabulous because that's where the money's coming from and it stays here. It really bodes well for maybe other requests later down the road. And, you know, I hate change orders too, but one change order, and that's the only one in this whole project. I mean, shouldn't we be celebrating that? Isn't that right? I think it's a yay. I really do. I know you don't want any, but to just have one with this large of a project, and, you know, I understand what Mark was talking about, I understand it, but still, I think it's really evidence to how you all are really looking at things before they happen, and you're sitting down and you're talking to people who really know the lay of the land and what's happening. So I congratulate you all. This is an amazing report, and I appreciate all the expertise that's sitting here with us and working for our kids. That's great. Thank you very much.
Other comments? I've got a couple. I'm trying to take a quick look at these numbers and understand a couple of things here. First of all, I'm looking on page 5 with the slide that's titled Snyder High School renovation, and under the by the numbers, the original project estimate was about $40 million, and we're looking at the actuals to be around 30. So is the 40, if is the original number of 40 million a part of the $119 million number?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it includes all of the professional fees as well.
So if I tried to run through all of the pages through what we've done and what we plan to do, and am I correct in that we may be under budget by $23 million when all is said and done, 22 to 25 million? I was trying to follow Heather's explanation about where we're at, and that second phase will be another 9 million under. So is my number right?
I don't know about the 22. I know it's higher because there are design contingencies for all the future projects that are still in place.
Right.
And there's an overall program contingency as well that has to be accounted for.
But I'm looking at what we originally estimated it. And if I would take all those numbers, and we originally estimated that at 119, and I quickly ran through the pages, and I've got us around 92 to 95 million dollars, even with Irwin not in and with some other adjustments. Am I that far off? I mean, I'm not the math teacher at the board table here, but in eyeballing that, is that about right?
If we continue to see such a favorable bid environment, potentially, the big chunk of it is that savings on the Snyder modulars. Gary was right. We had about $5 million budgeted in there for it, and we got the lease on the modulars
Seems to be.
for about $500,000.
I'm sorry. You know what?
I think
Krista is waving at you to get before a microphone, and I should have instructed you to do that, Heather.
Steve, I think if you go to the slide that had the two pies at the top of it, it was on page 4 of your handout, at the top of page 4. They've considered in there what the estimate is on remaining projects as well. So you can see right there, it looks like that when you...
There's a $9 million reduction there for work we've not done, right?
Right now, if we assume that we're spending 100% of the budget on the remaining projects that haven't been bid yet, and that may not be 100% because we may have similar savings, we don't know yet. But if we would spend 100% on the projects not bid yet, and then incorporate this savings, we'd have about a $9 million approximate savings at the end of the program. So
are you talking from the 119 number?
Yes, from the 119 million. Okay. So we have to, before we we've got to wait and see what the whole program results in but at this point, what they've tried to do is estimate what the remaining projects will cost and set aside those dollars for those projects, but they're not bid yet, so we don't know for sure.
But tell me if I'm right or wrong, when I take that of what we need to do and add that to what we've done, I'm still getting 22 to 25 million. Am I wrong?
I don't believe that's the case.
Okay.
It's about $9 million.
It's about $9 million. When you look at that $51 million number, that includes.
I'll still take the 9. I just wanted to know what the number was.
We'll give you the math later.
I guess the other two, well, a couple of other questions, and that is, what have we learned? I saw your summary, but what have we learned?
Quite a bit.
Tell me 3 things.
3 things. I do believe it is very important to manage the project with internal employees. Their interest is at heart. I had them out the first day of school shaking parents' hands and greeting students. You're not going to get that from a construction manager. They believe in the system. They have children in the system. They have children of their own. That's one thing. I really charge them and challenge them how they want their child to go through these projects. The second, more time. We're coming in front of you quicker with design approvals for architects and engineers. Gives them more time to deconstruct during the design phase so they can better identify potential challenges and change orders going into the bidding documents. So time is key. And third, to still look at trying to package the projects and bid them out accordingly so that we keep attracting local firms. They're the firms that have kids in our buildings, their spouses working for us as teachers or custodians. They're the community. So those are my 3 main ones. If I can add 4, I would, and that's transparency. What we're doing now, we need to show and communicate to as large an audience as we can, so when we come back in 2 years with the next bond issue, so we can take care of poor St. Joe, that we've got a good track record. So,
maybe this is covered in your second lessons learned with respect to more time, and that is, my observation is that perhaps what we need to do is to stay closer to the city and their ever-changing rules and regulations that are put upon them, and just that it may have helped us troubleshoot some of the issues that you had with the design work on the bus lane at Kroninger. The other thing I guess I need to ask, because Glenna raised it, and I guess I'm not reading this the same way, and that is, I don't see the difference in savings with respect to a project that was either union or non-union. Can you provide an unbiased analysis of whether that has affected our cost?
I think what has affected the cost of these projects is the market. We went to the market.
Not status of workers?
I really don't think so. There were union contractors and ABC contractors, both very aggressive and looking for work. We have individuals who work for both those companies that have made a good wage on both projects. If you look at the distribution, it's almost a 50-50. So if you're aggressive, you'll go after it. You still have all the opportunities if it's not union. I really don't think that had anything to do with the low bid market that we saw. It's more of the market that they're hungry and they want to put their workers to work.
Final question for our attorney, Bill Sweet, and that is with respect to wiggle room in what we told voters with respect to our issuance of bonds for this project. I know that we had to be very, very clear about the work we were going to do. Darren and his team have now saved us $9 million, and I know that many of us felt that we'd like to show the voters that we're good financial stewards, but is it prohibitive to add another school, a St. Joe, and air condition that? And if not, what wiggle room do we have, if any?
I do not believe we can change the scope of the work for the first project. We bid that in a certain way.
So we couldn't add a building, we couldn't put air conditioning in another school, are there things that we could do with the remaining projects where we, in the original project design work, that we could add something? I mean, Lisa.
If it was an alternate that we did not originally accept because of the cost, we could decide later to accept it. I think Darren referred to the trade-off between finishing some of those and returning the money to the public.
Let me try to answer that.
You can't change the scope of the work.
I think, and I appreciate you bringing that back up, because I think Mrs. Yale needs to have, we need to kind of clarify something, because we're on TV. What we're able to do is based upon what the community would support, which was 119. We went through a very, very structured process to decide who would be in that 119 million based upon extensive work that was done, even with the last project, to rank our buildings in terms of need. And one of the things I think that would be a little dangerous is to get into a process of this school needs it more than that school, and can we just add them because of the situation right now. It's hot everywhere, and everybody wants to start having that conversation about who's air conditioning and who isn't. But what's helped us get the 119 is we were very deliberate. And the schools were ranked, and we picked the projects based upon what the market could support, what we could support, because we didn't want to have so many projects. None of them came in the way we had planned them. And we're trying to demonstrate that we're going to do what we told you we would do with the money and be good stewards, because we have to come back. So I think it's a slippery slope to start talking about, can we do that one or add this one or change the scope? Because that's what people believed we were going to do what we told them we were going to do, and then have an open conversation about what happens if we came in under budget. But I hope we don't have too many of those conversations about adding here and adding there, because that's not how this whole process has been run. And there was a decision made about why it wasn't St. Joe.
I'm not asking for you to deviate from a set schedule. I am raising an objection that our board has decided to artificially set these wages, the common wages, at a higher rate than they need to be, instead of letting the market forces determine that, which we've had through the stronger bidding environment. But that's not, I'm just pulling out one example of the need. There are so many needs. That's why I am saying we need to be good stewards of the money that we've been allocated to get as much bang for our money as possible. More bang for our buck, and I believe that that is done through the non-unionized workshops. So.
Mr. Sweet, is there a statutory mechanism by which to set common wages?
There is.
And are we following it?
We are.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the presentation we heard? Lots of good information, and I at least know in phase 2 what first school is going to be on that list. And you're right. It's
no, they've already have a list of.
No, I'm talking about our next phase, our next round in 2000, whatever it is. Thank you very much, Darren.